Another quick video about these Nordic cousins. All of you that have any interest in bushcraft or cheap, high-quality knives know what this is. So this is, and I don't have my micrometer here, or my calipers here, but this is your standard Mora knife. It's got a good little handguard there, and let's take a look at it here and see what we have. All right, so we have about, I don't know if you can see that, about a 4-inch blade, and then an overall length of a little bit over 8 inches, maybe 8 1/8. Great knife, and for the money, a hard thing to beat. I mean, it really is a hard, high quality, and the whole thing about these cool tools is the high value. So great utility, good workmanship, and decent price. Now it's okay. It's good. It's sort of the standard bearer for the reasonably priced bushcraft or utility knife, and it comes in a pretty good plastic sheath that, even though you would think it feels cheap and is cheap, it holds the knife really well. So much so that it even has a little thumb brake to help you pull the knife out. But still, a workable system. Now here is the Scandinavian cousin from Finland. So Sweden here, Finland here, and this is a Martini knife. And my first encounter with the Martini knives were the Martini knives sold by Rapala. You know, as a little kid, those are the ones that had they were fillet knives, and they had a leather sheath with a design on it, and then the end was sort of like a little bow of leather at the end. But, you know, fillet knife's not useful for much more than filleting. But this is close to the same price of their Swedish cousin, except it's much better built. So the materials are a little bit better. So instead of, we'll do the comparison, instead of plastic handle, which is a good utilitarian thing, you get a rubber, high-density rubber handle. Instead of, I don't even know what this is called. If I sort of guess it would be a pommel. At this point, it's metal, and I mean, that's good. But this, you know, the Mora knife is still, you know, good knife. Now, when we get to the blade, that's where all the difference in the world comes. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know this. This is a flip camera, so I don't know what the resolution is. But the blades here, okay, on the length thing, the Mora knife has about a 1/2 inch or less of a length advantage. But if you look at the width, this I don't know if you can see there, the Martini knife is the blade is almost twice as wide. Comes from twice as big of a stock as does the Mora knife. But again, still great value. Now here's the thing. This thing comes from the factory razor sharp. This thing, vastly superior feeling. Even though it's a little small in my hand, it feels so much better. And whereas our friend Nut and Fancy would say, oh, it needs some jimping, on this pommel, I'm going to say that's what it's called, it's got 3 little raised ridges so that you can dig in with your thumb and really have, in case you have to do a thrusting type thing or you need some extra control. I think jimping on the back here would replace that, but that actually feels really good. Now, one thing on method and quality of construction. This is one that I actually worked on. But if you look closely, and I use a pen here, and we'll get over here on this, I get white contrast. If you look closely here, this surface, now I've actually stoned it up, tried to flatten it out to make this more of a right angle with the blade cheek here. But this surface, it was just stamped. So it has the little stamping marks, and I have spent probably about 20 minutes on using a stone to try to get those stamp marks out and to get more of a right angle thing here. For a ferrocium or the ferrous fire striking rods, so that you can use the back of the blade. Now if you look at the Martini knife, it has an extremely sharp 90-degree angle here, and it's great for striking the fire starter. So that's one, yet another difference. Now here's the amazing difference. The difference between this knife and this one. The difference between the Martini knife and the leather sheath and the plastic handled Mora utility knife with the plastic sheath is about $4. So that's not bad. So these are both knives that I like. They're both knives that I use. But the comparison thing is it's really hard to beat this little Martini knife. So Finland versus Sweden, just like during the Second World War, when the Russians at that point, maybe they're Soviets, yeah, they're Soviets at that point, when they invaded Finland, the Finns fought like the devil and really bloodied them up, losing almost none of their people compared to the Russians. High quality Western European made knife. So these two are good, and like my other recommendations, if you see a Mora knife for under 20 bucks, if you see a Mora knife on the internet for like 15 bucks with no shipping, pick it up. You know, you could waste your money on a whole bunch of other stuff. And so my wife doesn't even know this, but she has one of these in the a glove compartment of her car. That along with a magnesium fire starter, just because I thought it'd be helpful, you know. But little survival tool. I mean, hard to beat. Now the difference between this one and this one, of course, is quality, leather sheath, rubber versus plastic, steel versus plastic. If you find one of these cheap, again under $20, under $22, I'd pick up one too. And not to be so so ADD or compulsive, but if I encountered almost any of these bushcraft knives at a yard sale or a flea market or anything, I'd probably pick it up. I mean, a high utility, cool tool like this, you're going to find a use for it. And you know, you're more likely to lose it than you are to break it. You're more likely to lose it than you are to have a problem with it. So both Mora and Martini knives, Mora of Sweden, Martini of Finland, high quality items. Encourage you to get one and try it out for yourself. Only real disappointment is that this surface here, when they were doing the blades, you know, it was just a stamp. I guess they have a machine that just stamps, stamp, 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 and they did no machining on this back end. So I've been doing my own. When I have some time, I chuck it up in a vise and come straight across here and try to sharpen it up. And it is sharpening up. So we'll do a test real quick. Here's a card. Let's see if this will. Now these are the backs. So let's see if we can do this here. Let's see if this will work. Oops. We did get a little bit of a cut. Let me hold that better. I have a cut there too. Okay. So if this was sharper, actually that one was really sharp. If this one was sharper, we should have been able to cut this card along the back. And you can use a cheap Chinese-made spoon at Shoney's and do this. But I'm sure if you had two Martini knives, you could do this pretty easy. But it makes a good straight cut. Alright, Martini for the win. But a little bit more rare, a little bit more exotic, a little bit harder to find, but well worth it. And Mora continues to be utility standard bearer. And very happy with both these. Hope if you pick up one, you'll be happy with them too.